Hi, my name is Amanda, and today's video will be my June 2018 wrap-up. In my June TBR video, I chose about 10 books that I wanted to read, and out of those 10 books, I read about 6. 2 of them have exceptions as to why I didn't finish them, and 2 of them I just did not have the time to finish them before the end of June. I did get to read one extra book that wasn't on my TBR that I actually ended up starting to read a long time ago and wanted to finish, so that will be included. So in total, I read about 7 books this month. To me, that's very much a feat because I'm just getting back into reading and I'm usually just reading manga, and so for me to have read 7 books, even though 4 of them are manga, I think that's a good feat for me and I'm very proud of myself, and I can't wait to be reading in July. The first book I picked up is Looking for Alaska by John Green, and if you watched my June TBR video, this was the last book that I picked, and I wanted to read it first because it was the one I was least excited to read, as I literally knew nothing, and it was, John Green, I'm not very excited about his books, but I do want to read them as to see if I do enjoy his writing or not. But this was one I wanted to get out of the way because it really didn't seem interesting, and at the end of the day, I actually really enjoyed this book. I did have problems with the book, not so much the story and the plot or the writing or anything like that. I really just had a problem with the main character in certain scenes. If you didn't read this book is actually split up into 2 parts. There are no chapters necessarily. There is the before section and the after section. And in the before section, there are a couple scenes that the main character, Miles, or Pudge as his nickname is said, he thinks some things or says some things that I thought were a little bit problematic or that I didn't really like, but it wasn't things that necessarily really ticked me off and would get me to not like the book at all. So I just thought nothing of it. I just thought this is part of his character, it's not the end of the world. But it was really in the after section of the book that I really had a problem with his character. After the major plot, I guess, of the book happens in the after section, there are certain things that the character thinks and says and does that I just found really problematic, and I found him to be very, very selfish, and it just really made me hate the character and actually made me not want to read the book, even though I was enjoying the book so much that I just wanted to keep reading it like straight through. It only took me a couple of days, but the fact that I think it took me a full 2 days extra to read this book because the parts in the after section were so unenjoyable with having to read about this character and what he thinks in this situation. It literally made me almost hate this book. Thankfully, the character does end up getting better, I guess, and it was very enjoyable to read from there to the end, and I was very sort of satisfied with the ending, I guess. I was expecting to have a solid answer, even though the answer is pretty open. I will say that I did find it kind of strange that this character, Miles, was so different than what was portrayed in the before section, but at the same time, the twist, well, not the twist, but the plot of this book really goes to show that anyone could kind of act differently in these kinds of scenarios, and I truly believe that people can act differently. It was just he was unbelievably intolerable, but I still did overly enjoy this book. I was going to give it a 4 stars because I did enjoy my experience. I really did like that this was one of the first books that I read because it was kind of not slow paced, but it was just the pace that I liked. But I did have to deduct 0.5 for literally the parts with Miles because it was he was so intolerable. So I ended up giving this book a 3.5 stars out of 5, which I still think is pretty good. I could have gone lower, especially with how much I despised this character at some points. I still wanted to give it a good rating because, like I said, I did really enjoy the book. I really did love the other characters, but yeah, that's my overall on this book. It was a little hard to get through in some parts, but I still did enjoy it very much. The second book I picked up is The Death of Mrs. Westway by Ruth Ware, and I absolutely loved this book. This is a 5 out of 5 stars. I'm not even joking. I enjoyed my entire experience reading this book. I know there's a couple of people from the reviews that I read that said like, oh, it's not what I thought, or it's a little bit slow, and I will admit the beginning is quite slow, but sometimes that's a really good pace for me. I actually really like when things go slow because it's realistic in my mind, because you do get to know about the main character and whatnot, and I really loved this book. I think this is exactly the kind of book that got me really excited into reading because I just fully enjoyed it to the very end, and it got me thinking throughout the entire time, trying to figure out things, trying to figure out who is who and what is going on and what's going to happen in the future. And even then, as you're figuring it out, you just keep getting twist after twist after twist. And it was so good. I really don't want to say too much about this book because I highly recommend anyone to go and read it. This is actually an extra copy that I got. Chapters where I ordered it from actually ended up sending me a second copy. I didn't get charged or anything, but they did. So I'm using my second copy because my copy is actually at a friend's house who's reading it right now. So I have a lot of friends who are very interested in reading this, which is like so awesome for me because I really enjoyed this book. I enjoyed it so much, I don't really know what to say other than go and read it, make your own opinions about it so that like you can enjoy it. I mean, I don't expect anyone to have the same kind of experience that I did, but if anyone gets close to enjoying it as much as I did, that's good enough for me. Like I said, I really enjoyed this book. This is probably my favorite book out of all the books that I read this month. The next book that I picked up this month is Daughter of the Pirate King by Trisha Levenseller. I actually never even figured out how to say her name the entire time. And this is a book... Oh yeah, I didn't even explain the other books. Shit. I just realized that I did not discuss what the other two books were about, but we'll ignore those. This is a book about a girl who is the daughter of the Pirate King who goes onto an enemy ship to get a map that her father wants, and she is disguised, or it tricks them into thinking that she's their prisoner even though she voluntarily wants to go. And it's a very good book. I will say I did have a little bit of problems with the writing and how the things were plotted, I guess, were a little bit confusing and a little bit frustrating, to be honest. There's this one scene which I don't know if I should say, so if you haven't read it, maybe a spoiler alert, I'm not sure, but there's a scene where she's in her prisoner cell and she manages to get out, which fully explains it. I won't explain how she does it, but then the way that she got out of her cell, the method got taken away. Again, I'm not saying how, and later in the book you think, how is she going to get out? The only thing that she could get out got taken away, and then it just says she gets out with no explaining how she gets out, and I was like, what? And I remember going online on my phone trying to see if anyone had the same problem, and for the entire night it frustrated me to no end that I did not know how she got out of her cell. The good thing is I read, I believe, the next chapter and it explains it, but I'm not the type of person who likes those twists and who's like, ooh, what's going to, like, those kinds of little itty-bitty information. I'm just like, why can't you give it to me now? Why does it have to be a surprise? With that little frustrating moment, I did get used to the writing. Like, if things like that missed, I wasn't so frustrated anymore. I was like, oh, it'd probably get revealed later on, which it usually does. So it really was the writing that I had a problem with this book. There were a couple of things within the characters that I didn't enjoy, but at the same time, they're pirates. It's not exactly, you know, modern day society. So I really actually did enjoy the book. I gave it a 4 stars out of 5. I believe I binged like the last 150 pages just because that's kind of like the part that really got me excited about the book. The rest kind of seems repetitive in the sense, which I'm fine with because, like, hello, like, what else are you supposed to do when you're captive on a ship? Like, there's so much you can do. I can't wait to read the second one. The second one, I believe, is called Daughter of the Siren Queen. I don't have it. I wish I could pick it up and read it right away, so maybe that will be the case soon. But yeah, 4 out of 5 stars. Moving on to manga, so those who are not interested can fast forward to the end or something, or click this video away. But I will be talking about the last 4 books, which are manga. So the first manga I picked up this month is Goodnight Puddin by Ineo Asano, and this is a very big book. I don't know if I may have mentioned it last time, but it's a very big book. But with manga, that can be very awesome because you get gorgeous pictures like this. Isn't this beautiful? This is why I love manga. I may have gotten a little bit of the synopsis wrong when I first described this manga in my June TBR, but Goodnight Puddin follows Puddin throughout his life, and in this book you follow him, I believe it's through elementary school. I'm not completely sure because this is placed in Japan, and it doesn't really say it's elementary school, but I'm gonna say it's pretty much elementary school because near the end of the book you see him enter middle school. I did give it a 3.5 out of 5 stars only because the humor was a little hard for me to get used to at first. This book is very unique, I will say it's very unique, but I did enjoy it. It's just, it did take me a while to kind of get used to it. Like, at one point, I'm actually seeing him right now, but at one point their teacher, who again is a teacher to elementary school kids, just has a full-on freak out because a student didn't do homework, so this is just the kind of image that you get as he has his freak out. So the art is very, I guess, harsh for this, but I think that's what it's going for. It's going for, you know, a little boy going through life, and kind of a little more realistic than most manga. It's usually very sweet or things like that. There are also a little bit of explicit content, just because, like, at one point little boys find porn and they draw it out, and it's not the best porn, I will say. I have seen some manga that has like some like ecchi stuff. Just imagine this style of drawing in some kind of sexual form, like some kind of porn thing. It's not exactly like the best drawn stuff, but that's the point, I believe. The point is to be like a little bit shocking. I would recommend reading it if you're not too like sensitive to certain topics or certain jokes, but still enjoyed it. I don't know really what to say about Goodnight Puddin. It's very out there. Second manga I picked up is a very sweet little manga, and it's called Cheese Sweet Home, and this is part 1, and this is just what I needed after reading Goodnight Puddin. I forgot to mention this, but I read Goodnight Puddin in one sitting. I think it took me an hour and a half to read this entire thing, and I felt very weird, and I believe I was reading Daughter of the Pirate King at the same time, and the next day I was like, I need to read something a little maybe sweeter. And then I remembered I had this on my list, and I picked it up, and I was only going to read a little bit of it that day, but I ended up reading it in one sitting. It took me, again, either an hour and a half, but it follows little Chi here, who is a kitten, and basically it follows Chi as he gets lost with his mama, gets lost away from his mama, and then gets picked up by a family, a mom, dad, and a little boy, and it just follows her life. I really did enjoy it. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. It's so good, and there's actually a part that almost made me cry. What's really cool about this book is that it's all in color. So this usual typical manga is actually black and white, and then you get maybe a couple in color, but it's all in color, and it's a simplistic style for children, but I loved it. It's like, other than The Death of Mrs. Westway, this is like my second favorite book. It is so cute, and I actually want to pick up all of them. I believe there's only 3 out, and I think that's like the entire collection of Cheese Sweet Home, which makes me sad, but at the very end they do show another story with another kitten. I want to read more. I just really enjoyed it. It's a fun little read. I would really recommend anyone reading it because it's so cute. The third book I picked up is What a Wonderful World by Ineo Asano, which, if you recognize the name, it is the same author and illustrator as Goodnight Puddin. Now, this is different from Goodnight Puddin because it's not just following one person. It actually has a bunch of stories following different people. They are kind of connected. Sometimes they're just friends, or sometimes they just happen to talk to that one person that one time, or their siblings. It just kind of follows these characters in certain situations of their lives, and it was actually really enjoyable. I actually preferred this over Goodnight Puddin because I guess I was already used to the humor from this author, so I could enjoy it a little bit more. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars because there are some stories here that I actually wish they went deeper into. My favorite stories, there's 3 of them. One is The Bear Guy, which, again, if you read, you may know what I'm talking about. The Bear Guy, because it was so interesting. There's also The Emo Boy, because that was also interesting. I wanted to know more about him and why he felt this certain way. And also, there's one, it's actually very happy. It's the couple at the very end. There's only one more novel after this, which makes me really sad, but I'm also very interested as to how they're going to go upon this. Are they going to continue with these same characters? Are they going to go a different route? Are they going to put all these characters into one place? I have no idea, but there's only one left, and I really want to read it. And the last manga I picked up is Kiss of the Rose Princess by Aya Shoto, and this is a manga that I actually picked up a long time ago. Well, I would say in May that I picked this up, read about halfway through it, forgot I started it, and then saw it in June, and I was like, oh, I should probably finish it. And I did. It's a story I've actually already read. I didn't read it till full completion, but I read like a good majority of the story, so I did already know what was happening when going into this. But you follow, what's her name? You follow Anis, I don't know how to say that, but you follow Anis, this character, who kind of has a reputation of being a misfit because of the choker that she wears. Everyone in the school, there's students who think she's badass because she's defying the school's rules, and then the school, I guess, students who are like in charge of keeping their students under check are always going after her, trying to make sure that they can get that damn choker off of her, and in reality she's just this person who wants to live a regular life, and the only reason why she keeps this choker on her is because her father told her to never take it off. But then, if you can guess maybe what happens just off of what I said, at one point she does lose the choker, and it kind of just goes into what happens when she does lose the choker. I love the art style. This is a 5 out of 5 stars manga for me. It is so good. The art style is so cute and at the same time very detailed. So those are the 7 books I read this month. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you get interested by any of the books that I mentioned. I'm also sorry about the lighting. The sun is setting and I need to record this. Sorry about the lighting. I apologize. But those were the books. Again, I hope you got interested by any of them. I hope you enjoyed this video. I will be posting my July TBR very soon. I hope you guys had a good June, and I hope you have an even better July. And I will see you in the next video if you stick around, or I will see you the next time you click on one of mine. Bye!